I'll fly you over some damaged crops here in a little bit. Under this tree right here. Hey buddy, I got pigs under this tree right here on my right. I'm gonna try to blow them out to the south. Oh, they're so done. Sydney, this is a field day right here.
Okay.
This is field day shit.
Invasive animals are a big problem worldwide, causing damages that cost at least $100 billion every year as they compete for habitats, food, and water with native animals. This has caused troubles for farmers who have spent money, time, and energy controlling these animals until the introduction of helicopters in the fight against invasive animals. How effective are these helicopters? Join us as we delve into how helicopters help farmers deal with millions of invasive animals. Out of 37,000 introduced species, 3,500 are harmful, and these unwanted species are spreading because of human activity like traveling or trading globally. Scientists say about 200 new invasive species are found every year, and their economic cost is huge and keeps getting worse. It's been at least 4 times higher every 10 years since 1970. But that's just the start, according to researchers. Climate change and changes in how we use land and oceans will make things worse, and native species will go extinct. For example, lionfish are hunting local fish in the Caribbean. Giant African land snails are taking over places on Christmas Island, and brown tree snakes are wiping out birds on Guam. These invaders are a big reason why biodiversity is disappearing, messing up the balance of nature that's essential for us humans. Once they get established, the damage can be really bad. Without doing something about it, the number of invasive species will be even higher in 2050 than it is now. So, what is being done to control them? The world has suffered a great deal because of invasive animals, and in these different countries, different programs to control invasive species have been created. One program focuses on stopping cane toads from spreading to Darwin and Western Australia by using traps. Another approach is to bait these invasive animals with 1080 poison, which can also harm native animals like quolls and Tasmanian devils. Shooting is the most common and effective method. In the southwest of Australia, 1080 is useful because a native plant has the same toxin, so most native animals are immune to it. Some invasive animals are controlled by government culling programs. In 2018, the United States Congress started a $75 million test program in the Farm Bill that aimed to get rid of feral hogs. This built on a smaller program from 4 years before. The new program split the money evenly between using traps and shooting from the air, mostly with helicopters but sometimes with airplanes. In Texas, government workers killed a whopping 42,333 feral hogs last year, with 23,301 taken down from helicopters, according to USDA data. Nationally, Agriculture Department workers managed to take out 551,558 feral hogs from 2018 to 2022. The USDA wants to use more helicopters, buy more traps, and hire more people to hunt feral hogs if Congress can give them more money. This could happen through the new Farm Bill, which lawmakers want to pass early next year, or through yearly funding bills, which have been giving around $30 million each year to fight feral hogs lately. It's probably not possible to get rid of all the hogs in Texas and some other places in the South, but officials hope to at least control and then lower their numbers, explained Marlowe. In some northern states, the goal is to wipe out the hogs completely. To tackle the issue of feral camels, the Australian Feral Camel Management Project started in 2009 and lasted until 2013. It was managed by Ninety One Limited in Alice Springs and got $19 million from the Australian government. The goal was to help landowners learn how to handle feral camels better, while also reducing the damage they cause to important environmental and cultural places. Originally set to end in June 2013, the project got a 6-month extension and ended up finishing $4 million under budget. 19 important groups worked together on this project. The Australian government, and the governments of Western Australia, South Australia, the Northern Territory, and Queensland. Also, various Indigenous councils and organizations, like the Central Land Council and the Kimberley Land Council, were involved. Plus, there were environmental groups, animal welfare organizations, research institutions like CSIRO, and universities like Flinders University. In November 2010, the Australian Government Department of Environment released the National Feral Camel Action Plan, a big plan to deal with camels, considered a major pest across the country. It was part of the Australian Pest Animal Strategy. To carry out the culling program, Ninety One and its partners got approval from landowners for over 1,300,000 square kilometers of land. They used different methods depending on the area, taking into account the concerns of Aboriginal landholders. By the end of the project in 2013, the Australian Feral Camel Management Project had pulled off something remarkable. They slashed the wild camel population by a whopping 160,000 camels. They did this by using helicopters to cull over 130,000 camels from the air, rounding up 15,000 on the ground, and shooting 12,000 from vehicles for pet meat. Even with this huge effort, there were still around 300,000 camels left, and their numbers were going up by 10% each year. One of their biggest operations happened in mid-2012 in the southwest of the Northern Territory. They deployed 3 helicopter teams to hunt camels and 2 more to spot and gather them. In just 12 days, they took out 11,560 camels over an area of 45,000 square kilometers, costing about $30 for each camel. However, some folks in the camel industry criticized the project. They wanted to use the wild camels for meat or export instead of just culling them. They argued that this would reduce waste and create jobs, but there were hurdles, like the poor health of many camels, the high cost of transport, and the challenges of working in remote areas, especially on Aboriginal land. Unfortunately, the project didn't get any more funding after 2013. Ninety One, the organization behind the project, estimated that they'd need about $4 million a year to keep the camel population in check. But then, due to intense heat, drought, and the devastating 2019 and 2020 Australian bushfires, wild camels started encroaching more on human settlements, especially in remote Aboriginal communities. In South Australia's APY lands, they wandered through streets, causing damage to buildings and infrastructure as they searched for water. They also wreaked havoc on native plants, polluted water sources, and harmed cultural sites. To tackle this issue, the South Australian Department for Environment and Water initiated a 5-day mass cull of camels on January 8, 2020. Skilled shooters would take down between 4,000 and 5,000 camels from helicopters, ensuring they followed the highest standards of animal welfare. Helicopters have indeed been of great help in controlling the fast-rising invasive animal species, but how do these helicopters help farmers deal with millions of these animals? Talking about wild boars, these creatures have a big problem with their numbers increasing by around 20 to 25% each year, causing major issues. Their fast breeding and ability to live in different places make them hard to control. Experts think that to keep their numbers steady, we need to get rid of 60 to 70% of wild boars every year. Wild boars, despite being big and smart animals, weighing up to 661 pounds as adults, are tough to handle. Even though they move slowly due to many obstacles, they still pose a risk. Helicopter hunting for wild boars is quite common, especially in Texas, where the choppers can fly at speeds of 100 to 150 miles per hour. Texas's flatland, open forests, and swamps make it perfect for hunting these animals. The helicopter wild boar hunting adventure is an exciting and tough experience. Hunters search for wild boars from above, then use hunting tools to take them down while following U.S. laws. The number of wild boars hunted each year varies widely, from a few hundred to several million. When a wild boar is spotted, the hunter tells the pilot right away, and they fly together to find the animal. Wild boar hunting rules can be different from one state to another. Some states only allow hunting during certain times of the year, while others let people hunt all year with a special license. Hunters aim to take down wild boars with their hunting tools, usually targeting the back of the head or neck, for a quick and effective takedown. Hunting helicopters can usually see up to 750 feet ahead, but there are devices that can reach up to 1,000 feet, giving hunters more options in different areas. Different methods require the hunter and pilot to be very careful and skilled when landing the helicopter. The safe height to fly depends on the land and the type of helicopter rotor, which helps in pushing pig populations away and guiding them to a spot where it's easy to hunt them. Helicopter blades also help hunters see them easily in the bushes, but taking down feral pigs works best when they're moving around or searching for food, and open areas make it easier for helicopter hunting of wild boars. During each hunt, hunters might take out 1 to 3 wild boars, but there are drawbacks to using helicopters for hunting them too. While this method lets hunters reach remote places and take down many animals quickly, it's expensive and risky. There's a danger of harming people and other animals in the area, especially near homes or natural spots. So, people should be careful and think hard before using this method to make sure everyone stays safe and the environment stays protected. Many think that using helicopters to hunt wild boars can disturb nature's balance, control small animals, and make room for plants to grow. But helicopter hunting can also harm the environment by making noise and emitting smoke. The noise can mess up the water and air quality, and the smoke from helicopters can pollute the air too. Plus, the waste from hunting can make the land dirty. Using helicopters for hunting wild boars is often seen as unkind because it might kill young or pregnant ones. Even though it's getting more popular in the US because it works well and is fast, it comes with a lot of problems. Wild boars are smart, and that can make the hunting harder. If you think there's a way to make this method better and still reduce the number of wild boars, let me know. There is no doubt that this method of controlling invasive animals is effective. But what are the challenges faced by farmers who make use of this method? A skilled helicopter pilot who hunts hogs doesn't just chase after them. It's more like steering a big flying broom. These pilots see the hogs in thick bushes and hover just above the trees. They angle the helicopter to use its air currents to push the hogs into open fields. Then, they turn the helicopter to give the gunners, sitting and hanging out the side, a clear shot. Michael Marlowe, who helps manage the USDA's National Feral Swine Damage Management Program, says becoming a wildlife services pilot isn't easy, even if you're a great pilot already. So there is a need to train more of these specialized pilots to fight a growing problem. But funding for helicopters is running out after a 5-year trial program ended on September 30th. What happens next is uncertain, as the feral hog problem, which costs farmers and ranchers $2.5 billion a year, is just one of many money battles in Washington this autumn. When Congress starts talking about making new farm and government funding laws, farm groups really want them to put more money towards getting extra helicopters to fight the invasive animals from above. They also want funds for big fancy traps and more people to help across the South. But not everyone thinks the government should be more involved. Chris Britt, who runs Helibacon, charges customers $3,000 and up to shoot at hogs from his private helicopter. His business in Bryan, Texas, gets rid of thousands of these pests each year without costing landowners or taxpayers anything. He doesn't think the government can do a better job. "I'm all for small government," Britt said. "I just don't think they're very good at this." Around Hearn and the Bryan College Station area in east central Texas, where there isn't much federal help, landowners use private helicopters to hunt hogs, or at least scare them off their land onto someone else's. The business started after Texas passed a law in 2011 that lets people hunt from helicopters over private land without needing a hunting license. Landowners let us onto their property for free, And we kill the pigs as much as we can, Britt explained. The deal is, the customer pays for everything. From the customer's point of view, it's exciting, Britt said. You get to shoot a machine gun from a helicopter. But the government isn't happy about private helicopter hunting. These companies make lots of money by letting people go up, Marlowe said. It doesn't make sense for them to want to get rid of the pigs because then they'd lose money. Another problem is that farmers worry that the hogs are getting smarter and harder to scare away from thick bushes. He says private helicopter hunters make a lot of noise, teach the hogs to stay hidden in forests, and don't actually kill many hogs. USDA workers are really good shots, Tomashik says. If I paid thousands of dollars to go on a helicopter ride, I wouldn't be as good at catching hogs as a USDA worker. I'd have fun, but the hogs would learn from me being there. During an October trip with 6 customers on Helibakin's helicopter, they didn't catch many hogs. In 2 hours, they only got 2, maybe 3 hogs. Pilot Chase Roberts and crew chief Taylor Carey saw a group of about 12 hogs in the woods, but couldn't scare them into open areas. Carey admitted during safety training before the flight that groups tend to shoot a lot, saying they fire about 400 rounds for every hog they catch. Even though Britt's way of doing things might not be the best, he doesn't think having more help from the government would be any better. Getting rid of invasive animals entirely sounds like a dream, but it's just not realistic most of the time. The complicated relationship between native and invasive species makes it tricky to decide what to do. Take rabbits, for instance. They're a favorite snack for foxes and feral cats in many areas. If we get rid of the rabbits, these predators might start munching on native animals instead. And if we try to control the predators, there's less pressure on the rabbits, so they'll bounce back. Plus, keeping invasive species out for good is tough. Given how expensive using helicopters in animal control is, farmers have leaned towards other control methods. What are they? When feral animals are shot from the sky, vultures quickly clean up the remains, while those caught in cage traps are often killed for their meat. According to Danny Tarver, a trapper from Franklin, Texas, buying more traps would be a simple way for the government to reduce the hog population. The best traps, which are 12 feet by 12 feet and equipped with a 360-degree camera and Wi-Fi hotspot to connect to a smartphone, cost about $4,500 each. Tarver has 4 of these traps, which he uses on nearby farms, ranches, and areas around prisons and power plants. Tarver's high-tech traps are becoming more common. Using an app called iWilink, he can raise the steel cage with a small motor by pressing a button. Tarver receives an alert on his phone when something moves under the trap, detected by a camera mounted above it. The trap also has a speaker, so Tarver can scare away deer or hunters that come too close. And when hogs take the bait, usually corn, their favorite, Tarver presses a button and the cage comes down, trapping them inside with a loud clang. The fancy features on traps aren't just convenient. Feral hogs quickly figure out how to avoid traps, so humans have to keep updating their tactics to keep up with the animals. Rebecca McPeak, a professor from the University of Arkansas who works on her state's Feral Hog Task Force, explains that small traps don't work well anymore. Trappers switched to bigger traps with gates, but hogs were hesitant to go through them. Trappers added a second gate so they can see straight through and not feel trapped. Eventually, they developed traps with 3 gates. I don't know if it's us or them, if the hogs are getting smarter or we're getting smarter, McPeak said, but we're stepping up our game. Trapping is especially crucial in southeastern states where there are too many trees for helicopters to work effectively, says Mitt Walker, who oversees national legislative programs at the Alabama Farmers Federation. He wants the government to hire more staff to help farmers and ranchers set up and bait traps, especially now that traps are getting bigger and heavier. When farmers have to run a farm and manage these traps, they're realizing this is going to be a lot tougher than we thought, Walker said. Since these traps are kind of complex, some farmers are reinvesting in their fences. But these fences need to be super strong to keep feral hogs out. Barbed wire isn't effective. Experts suggest net wire fencing because of how effective and durable it is, but it's pricier than most fences. The mechanical methods of control have proven to be effective, but at the same time temporary and short range, and that has led to the development of biological methods. Let's delve into this method. Scientists suggest biocontrol strategies that could take 20 years or more to work properly because quick fixes just won't cut it, as invasive animals tend to bounce back fast, wasting time and money. So for many years, CSIRO, an Australian organization, has been at the forefront of the ongoing fight against the huge negative effects of some invasive animals like rabbits on the economy, environment, and society. In 1950, CSIRO introduced the world's first biocontrol for vertebrate pests, the myxoma virus, which wiped out 99.8% of infected rabbits. However, as often happens with evolution, rabbits developed resistance. In 1996, the rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus was released in Australia, greatly reducing rabbit numbers. Nearly 2 decades later, another strain was found that further reduced wild rabbit populations. Dr. Tanja Strive, the principal research scientist for CSIRO Health and Biosecurity, emphasizes the importance of focusing on controlling rabbits when allocating resources for pest control. She works tirelessly to enhance existing viruses and discover new pathogens that can help manage rabbit numbers. She also explores innovative genetic methods to improve the effectiveness of rabbit biocontrol efforts. While many of us adore our pet cats and may be hesitant to consider biocontrol methods for managing them, the reality is that feral cats kill 75 million native animals every night. Urgent action is needed to address this issue. At the University of Melbourne, Dr. Ellen Cottingham has come up with a clever idea, using a cat's immune system to make them unable to have babies, called immunocontraception. This method doesn't harm animals. Instead, it stops them from having too many babies. Immunocontraception has been successful in controlling the number of African elephants without causing any behavior problems. Now, Ellen aims to adapt this technology for feral cats. The technology begins much like a regular vaccination. First, a specific gene related to reproduction is chosen. Then, it's delivered into cats using a viral carrier to vaccinate them. Their cells will start making the reproductive protein, but because it's delivered by a virus, the immune system will see it as an invader. Cats will then produce immune cells to attack the reproductive protein, decreasing their fertility. This method is meant specifically for feral cats, since pet cats should already be vaccinated against the virus used as a carrier. Additionally, Ellen suggests that we should already be sterilizing our pet cats. By using cats' immune systems to lower their fertility, we can make sure that the feral cat population doesn't keep growing out of control. Aquatic farmers are not left out of this discussion, as in our waterways. Invasive fish like European carp and tilapia are causing trouble. They push out native fish, eat their food, and mess up the water quality with their habits. While many know about using viruses to control pest rabbits, not as many know about using biocontrol for fish. Dr. Agus Sunarto is looking into using the tilapia lake virus, which can quickly kill tilapia without hurting native fish. He's making sure that researchers can test the safety and effectiveness of this virus, as well as any other biocontrol methods. Meanwhile, postdoctoral fellow Dr. Chandran Fitzner from Macquarie University is trying a different method. He's genetically modifying fish so that only male offspring are born. When these modified fish mate with pest fish in the wild, their babies won't survive. By making sure that only male carp are born from a group of modified fish, the population will eventually decrease because they won't be able to have babies without both males and females. Scientists are also starting to think more about using gene drives to control pests. These drives can be super helpful. especially when other methods don't work well, harm the environment, or cost too much. Normally, when parents pass on genes to their kids, it's a 50-50 chance. But gene drives boost those odds, making sure certain genes get passed on more often. If one of these genes happens to be a mutated version that makes animals less fertile, it can quickly spread through a population. Researchers are looking into using gene drives to deal with pests like rodents, cane toads, carp, foxes, and rabbits. But because this field is still pretty new, scientists like Dr. Steven Frankenberg want to make sure we're in complete control. One idea is to use genetic changes in 2 different genes instead of just one, kind of like having 2-step verification on our phones for extra security. Dr. Steven Frankenberg, who studies developmental biology at the University of Melbourne, talks about setting up plans for using genetic methods to control pests. Since gene drives are still in their early stages, we're not exactly sure what all the consequences and risks might be. So, before we start using them, it's important to predict what might happen and try to reduce any uncertainties. Professor Paul Thomas did some modeling on a gene drive that messes with a fertility gene in female mice, making them unable to have babies. His team figured out that releasing 256 mice with this gene drive into a population of 200,000 on an island could wipe out the population in about 25 years. Just like shooting from helicopters, the biological method is also facing challenges. What are these challenges? Let's find out. Like in any field of study, money is a big problem for scientists. They can only find solutions to these issues if they have enough funds. But even if they make great discoveries, they have to think about the knowledge they've built on and the social and political situation. Professor Dan Tompkins says that even if we find a great way to deal with invasive pests, it won't work if people don't agree with it. James Trezise deals with public opinions about invasive species every day as the Conservation Director of the Invasive Species Council. He says that even though we've had some success in controlling pests, like the cane toad, people still don't trust science-backed solutions. James says that social license doesn't mean having political power or being able to make changes. The main problem in getting public support for dealing with invasive species is that many people don't realize how big and urgent the threat is to our environment. What do you think about how helicopters help farmers deal with millions of invasive species? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're here, click on the video on the screen for more content like this one.